Still waiting for people to join. The stream at least. Can't go. The stream still hasn't been posted to the stream chat, but no. Well, anyway, welcome to the Japanese Grand Prix here in the BPRL Racing League. I am back for Division 1 around the Suzuka International Circuit. But overall, let's take a look at the track. A 5.8km circuit consisting of 18 corners. The one DRS zone being in between turns 18 and turns 1. Moving on, there is obviously corners like 130R, which the exit of that is the speed trap, and also gives out a lot of action. This track and a lot of mayhem or chaos more rather, will be ensued. Lap record is a 130.983, which all of these drivers will definitely smash that target. So we'll see what happens then. So now wait as the Kick Sauber makes his way out on track. Kick Sauber of, I believe, Zib Bike Life. Yes, it is. As he makes his way out the pit lane, and off he goes. Also, his teammate, Ghostly Viper, and the Haas of Ibrahim is also making their way into turn 1 out of the pit lane. There's also Mercedes of not DJ Death Dragon, Bobby. Also, through the S section, there's also I believe that's a V-Carb, or a Williams. Yes, it's mini waffled. That's the Red Bull. But looking around, so Bike Life will be leading the first lap, currently on the soft compound tyre. There's the Mercedes of Bobby, well, not exactly behind him, but he's also out on track. Speaking of Zib Bike Life, his teammate Ghostly Viper navigates his way around the hairpin, and as he makes his way down into Spoon, the Haas of Ibrahim also... Yeah, you haven't, DJ Death Dragon. But I'm back. About time, honestly. About time. But, looking around, bike life, making his way into the chicane. Hits the apex cleanly. Now he needs a very good exit from turn 18 as he makes his way around turn 18, crosses the line to start the first lap of the Japanese Div 1 in BPRL, in the Japanese sprint qualifying, more rather, in the realistic performance. So he won't be expected to do the best lap times. I mean, honestly, I think the Haas of Ibrahim behind him will probably do maybe say a bit better lap time, but he spun round. He's round and stuck on the curb as in comes Ibrahim, and it could. He's already invalidated his lap time, but Ghostly Viper also invalidated. So the front three that were saying laps have all either spun or have invalidated their lap times. Also looking around, there's also the Mercedes of Bobby. He's going to be next. Currently, one of the drivers out on a lap, but he's actually left the session. He's disconnected. So what else is going on? Mini Waffled dashing his way into turn 1. I mean, obviously in the Red Bull he will be expected to be battling for those provisional pole positions, but he can do a Sergio Perez as he weaves his way through the S section on board with the Red Bull driver. He needs to hold on to this apex here to not go spinning into the gravel. Most of the people have actually done this before, and not even just on F1, but in Gran Turismo Sport and 7. I've seen it before, and we may even see it again here in BPRL. There's a lock-up from Mini Waffled, but that I don't think really phases him as he makes his way out the exit and around the long right-hander. He's going to keep it around the outside, going to Spoon. He needs a very pinpoint exit as he nearly invalidates there, and as he circles around the final kind of as he exits Spoon, and down towards 130R, he's got some traffic. There's a V-carb. Bike Life, the one who spun, so 157.3, and into the chicane. There's yellow flags because drivers are laying each other through. Looking also ahead, Mini Waffled. ASR Mats sets the first proper lap, but Mini Waffled goes 2.5 seconds quicker. Looking also further back, the Aston Martin of Pimeralda goes into P2. 303 thousandths off Mini Waffle's lap time. Looking back, there's also Upright and the Mini Waffle's teammate of Jameiro starting his lap. Nicholas also goes into P4. Olaf goes into P3. His teammate Marco goes on provisional pole. 5/10 ahead of Mini Waffle's lap that seemed to look like provisional pole, but it's been snatched away by Marco. Meziger goes into 7th place. There's an Aston Martin of Bradders. He's on an invalidated lap time, so that doesn't do anything to the leaderboard. No changes. The Alpine of Jake behind him. He's starting his lap time, actually. Kick Sauber, Ghostly Viper. He invalidated his first lap. This second lap doesn't look even better as he goes down the straight, crosses the line. P9 and 10 for the two Kick Saubers. And at the moment, Nicholas is doing the best out of the bottom half of teams in the realistic. As the steps go into P5 and into the chicane goes the two I believe Alpines, no, the two Williamses. ASR Matt goes into the pits. His teammate Martin goes into P7. Looking around, there's also Jameiro in P18 at the moment as he dashes out that final corner on the medium compound tyre. He's going to cross the line. It's not looking quick. He goes P6. And because it's realistic, it's kind of more unexpected to see Red Bull in P6. And also nearly 2 seconds off of Ferrari's pace. Looking around the circuit, we've got Shaz making his way into Spoon. And he's going to make his run down towards 130R. But there are more drivers crossing the line. For example, Jake, he goes into P6. There was someone else who crossed the line. I believe it was, who is it? So I just saw another shift. I think it was MCL. because he wasn't 13th before. But anyway, what about Shaz? He's going to dive into the pits. He's not put a lap on the board yet. But the man who lagged out earlier, we have now got Bobby as he makes his way through the next couple of corners and making his way into Spoon. The two Mercedes still yet to set lap times. Ibrahim 18th, Shaz in 17th. And here in SQ1, or just the short qualifying for sprint, because don't forget this is just for the sprint race, and will that change anything with point standings? Probably. And as we wait, there's the Mercedes of Bobby going into P10. Looking further behind, we have an Aston Martin going into the pits. That was Pimeralda. And still nothing much going on. Now we've only got a Haas, a McLaren, and a Mercedes. All still yet to set a lap. I mean, DJ Death Dragon's also out on track, however, as he steamrolls his way. He just recently got out of that pit lane. There's a Ferrari of Olaf van der Kamp ahead of him. Nothing much is going on. Bobby not on a proper lap time, and that's the only one that isn't, that's actually not on an out lap, but still out on track. Let's look around as more drivers are actually starting to set laps. For example, Mini Waffles easily parting through the S section. Also looking around, Olaf making his way into Spoon. He's going to be probably the next driver to put a lap on the board. But Upright's also making his way through the hairpin. Shaz has just started his, what could be his first lap, which has to be his first lap, with 1 minute and 10 seconds left. He only has one chance to get in a good lap time. Marco starts his lap as well. But the next person to cross the line will be Olaf. There was a front wing flying off in the background of the Ferrari, but on board with the Ferrari, Olaf is going to cross the line. Goes P2, a provisional 1-2 for Ferrari. The Haas behind starts his lap. The Mercedes of DJ Death Dragon goes into P5. The V-Cub starts his lap. But what about Mini Waffled? Mini Waffled into the chicane. He's currently a 10th down, so he needs to make all the ground he can as around the final corner. Can he reinstate? No, he can't. He's retired from the session even. And the Aston Martin of Bradders, no, not Bradders, his teammate Pimeralda, starting his lap time. The Alpine also starting his lap, but looking around, the next person to cross the line will be Jake to start his lap with only 5 seconds left of the session. So he's got in at such perfect timing, but qualifying is now over. Shaz is now the first one, and he goes on provisional pole. He gets rid of the Ferrari 1-2 and has put himself on provisional pole. A 10th clear, nearly 2 of Marco. But can Marco have a response? No, he can't. He's in second. Olaf won't either. However, what about the Aston Martin of Bradders? What can he do? He goes P7. What about the Red Bull of Jameiro around the final corner? He's been rapidly improving, goes P6. That's where he was when he stopped, put his first lap on the board. The Kick Sauber of Ghostly Viper goes into last place as I think it was Ibrahim who goes P13. Yes, it was. And oh my days, everything's happening right now. But Steps goes into P5. That's something. Olaf stays where he is. And unless it's down to Pimeralda, can he dethrone Chaz? No, he can't. He goes P4. What about Jake, however? He's making his way through the chicane. There's a V-carb ahead of him of MCL. And as MCL makes it to the line, he stays where he is. JKM goes P7, and qualifying is now slammed shut, and it's Chaz on pole for the sprint race, and that could really do something. So on pole will be Chaz, followed by the 2 Ferraris of Marco and Olaf. And what will be expected, we'll find out here in the sprint race. And now we wait. So, now we go underway with the formation lap, and as they make their way into turn 1, let's look at who's got what tyres. We've got 9 laps of racing here for the sprint race, and everyone's on mediums. And there will probably be maybe a pit stop, maybe not. That really depends. But let's, now as we wait, let's take a look at the grid. And we've got Chaz on pole, followed by the 2 Ferraris of Marco and Olaf, followed by Pimeralda. In 5th, we have Mini Waffled, the Steps in P6, Jake M in P7, Jameiro in P8, DJ Death Dragon in P9, Bradders in P10, Martin SM in P11, followed by the V-carb of Nicholas, followed by the Williams of ASR Matt, followed by the Haas of Ibrahim, and a very shocking result for the Mercedes of Bobby down in P15. Also, Ibrahim's teammate Upright Persona in P16. We have Mezagir in P17. We have 2 disqualifications for, I believe, contact between Zip Bike Life and MCL. And finally, at the back is Ghostly Viper, who now needs to hope for an amazing sprint race to try and slowly claw his way back into this Grand Prix as Shaz makes his way into the chicane. Marco far, far behind. And now let's see how these drivers position their cars for this Grand Prix. We can see the two disqualified drivers at their grid positions already, obviously set back as well. Good parking from Shaz, same for Marco. And now, what's going to happen? There's a Mercedes at the grass, and that's DJ Death Dragon. And as everyone is weaving and ghosting, we are now ready to get underway for this Grand Prix. Steps correcting properly. So does Pimeralda. And what about the Haas of Ibrahim? He parks it, and now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go. It's a very good start for Shaz, but Marco can't get a better one. Olaf trying to sneak around the outside, but Pimeralda's there to counter him as he goes up into P3. They're side by side, the Ferrari and the Aston Martin. Further down the grid, we can see Ghostly Viper making up a position from his last place, and that could benefit him in the later race stage. The two Red Bulls side by side, Mini Waffled and Jameiro. Mini Waffled keeps Jameiro behind, as they make their way into the next couple of corners. It's Shaz that leads. Following behind him is the two Ferraris, followed by Pimeralda, and then finally Shaz's teammate of Steps in P5. And we are now settling in as Nicholas gets past DJ Death Dragon. This has not been a good race for DJ Death Dragon, as he just dropped from the P9 to P11 out. He never was in the points, but hypothetically, if this was the race, he'd be now out of the points. However, looking further up the grid, Pimeralda wants to claw back, but Marco into 130R is chasing down Shaz. Can he risk into the chicane? No, he does not. Stays behind. Olaf's shortly behind as well. Maybe he can pull a move somewhere later, but DRS will now be enabled this lap. A 1:31.2 was the first lap time, as Marco on board with him. Can he get past Shaz in this S section? Shaz has gotten an outside line. Marco to the inside, and as they slalom their way into the S section, there is now a little train splitting off in between Jameiro and Jake, and now the gap is 9 tenths, and it'll be very soon till we won't. It's already 1 second now, and this is really splitting the realistic kind of performance. The top four separated, well, basically by a second, as Olaf and Marco add up to 7, and Pimeralda is basically 1 second as they make their way through Spoon. Pimeralda, I think, went 4 wheels off the circuit there, so that will definitely be a warning for track limits as they go up the hill, down into 130R. Can Marco catch up enough to get some sort of overtake down into the only DRS straight on this circuit? And look at the speed difference between Marco and Shaz. 3 tenths gained in a single corner, but a massive snap of oversteer has caused the gap to go from 3 to 7 tenths, and now Marco's teammate Olaf is closing in on the Ferrari. There's a lock-up from Shaz, there's yellow flags, and that is Masuga. But looking towards the midfield, it is absolutely jam-packed as Nicholas is trying to go around the outside to Jameiro, and it's an amazing move after slaloming through the S's. And as you can see, this massive bunch of drivers squatting together. But further up the grid, Mini Waffled is prepared to overtake the steps, and it's the send, but he spun round almost. Mini Waffled catches it, but he's now far behind to where he was before, and that was a very big mistake that he wishes to regret as the top four make their way into Spoon. The two Ferraris are battling for the second spot on the podium as Shaz keeps on trying to build that gap. But up the hill they go. It's obvious that Marco is just steaming and raring to get that first place. And as they dash into the chicane, can Shaz defend off the Ferraris and maybe even the Aston Martin as they make their way down the straight? Marco will have the DRS surely this time, and before even they cross the start-finish line, Marco makes his way into P1. Can Olaf also follow through in these next couple of corners as Shaz is already harvesting with the red light flashing, with him having now around 50% ERS now as he's slowly regained that ERS. But let's go back down to the midfield as this fight for P7 rather, is really bubbling. Can DJ Death Dragon somehow get past Nicholas? But as we go on board with the Aston Martin of Bradders, we can see how close it really is between these two, and 3 tenths apart, 2 tenths apart, and it's been staying the same since lap 1, and Marco has nearly built a 1 second gap. The gap is now nearly 9 tenths, 8.5 to be exact. But as they go around Spoon the midfield, they are all scrapping, and as you can see them just appearing out of the exits, we saw a snap there as well. And as they make their way down towards 130R, Jamero leads this pack as he cuts into the chicane, hits the apex. Marcus has the fastest lap of a 1:29.2. But as they make their way into the final corner, Nicholas wants to get that place back, but Shaz has actually gotten past the Ferrari, and Olaf is fending off the McLaren, and it could be a possible 1-2. That's Marco in the wall. Marco has gone off into the barriers, and he has dropped heavily, being sucked out of the points and down into P14 even, as even the Haas is slowly creeping his way forward. So now Olaf leads, followed by Shaz, and followed by Pimeralda. But Pimeralda goes deep, and this could be chances for Steps to make it 2 McLarens on the podium. And as they make their way down into Spoon Curve, yellow flags are being set out, and Massa MCL dropping now down to P19, and it's going to be a horrible race for him. But his teammates up into P6, now trying to chase down Jamero, trying to get into the top 5 as he has a massive snap. He sees his sister team ahead of him, and as up the hill they go, down towards 130R. The slipstream is immaculate to Nicholas, and as they go through 130R, it is oh so close. DJ Death Dragon slowly behind. He gets past Nicholas, can't even get past get past Jamero. No, he can't. There was contact, but DJ Death Dragon is not ashamed to have another go. Shaz gets ahead of Olaf, and DJ Dragon goes into P6, and as they go into turn 1, Jamero has to look for his mirrors because there is a silver Mercedes steaming towards him. Bradders is trying to overtake Ibrahim, and as they make their way into the next couple of corners, running down to the hairpin, is going to be oh so close. There's a lockup from Ibrahim. Ibrahim has got a staggering drive, and as he's gained 6 positions, starting in P14, and this has been an amazing race for him here in the sprint race here for BPRL. I mean, we can't say the same for either Marco or Mini Waffle, dropping down 12 and 13 positions, something they want to clear off their heads and focus onto the feature race that'll be shortly after, as Olaf, he needs to chase down Shaz, he needs to redeem his teammate, and down into the chicane, the gap is closing. Shaz locks up, is going to be even so close into this down into turn 1. 3.5 tenths is the gap. Can Olaf close that? He pulls to the left, and before turn 1 has even been made, he gets back ahead of the McLaren, and the McLaren has dropped down back into P2, and DJ Death Dragon is ahead into P5. Shaz nearly spinning round, so does Olaf, so we don't want them to spin again because that'll give the win to Pimeralda unless the steps could do something about it. And Mini Waffled has got the first 3-second penalty of this race, and it's been 7 laps. There's a zip bike life round at the entry of turn 1. And looking more and more at this battle, Olaf is running away from 2nd, 3rd and 4th. And he needs to in a dire fashion if he wants this sprint race win and the full 8 points. Because at the moment, the fast lap holder is at the moment Marco. More yellow flags, that's Ghostly Viper as he now drops down into P18. A 7/10 gap. Can Shaz maybe even catch up to Olaf and make a late move to try and get the full 8 points, maybe even 9 if he sets the fastest lap now, as they make their way down the straight. Pimeralda wants to have a say in this, as he's, even before the turn 1, out of the pit, now next to the pit exit, Pimeralda is ahead of the McLaren, and the 2 McLarens, 3 and 4, 6 and 5 points for them, but as they dash their way through now the S section, they slalom their way through. Olaf is cleanly ahead, unless Pimeralda wants to stick his nose in. Speaking of Pimeralda, his teammate's gone up into P9 in this massive fight for not points, but it's still 9th is a good spot to be in for a race. I mean, it would be better if it was a feature race, as the main event is going to get you more, it will actually get you points for 9th. But looking around, Jameiro has dropped massively. He went wide at one of the exits of one of the corners and has now been swallowed by Nicholas and Ibrahim. A fight for P1. I mean, the gap has never gone over 1 second, and as the 2 McLarens need to think of a plan to overtake these 2, Shaz is like a train riding its way into the destination of P1. Pimeralda is a train ahead, giving a red light to Shaz, and Pimeralda wants to get past Olaf and round the final corner to start the final lap of the sprint race, lap 9 out of 9. Look at the speed of Pimeralda. He's going to pull to the left. Can he dash around the outside? It's side-by-side action into turn 2. There's still neck and neck. There's nearly contact. There is contact! And that's Olaf cutting across the grass. And he's dropped all the way. He's stayed into P2. He has stayed into P2. Pimeralda's dropped into P4. Shaz has somehow come out of this into P1. And that is beautiful action. And as they make their way into the next 2 corners, as they slide their way through, lock up from Shaz. And what has just happened? Pimeralda's been reset back to 4th place, and there's yellow flags at the entry of the chicane. That's a Ghostly Viper Mini Waffled. Can it be a McLaren 1-2? The steps, gets pushed massively wide. Into the gravel he goes. He rejoins the circuit safely. And that is him out of the contention for P1. We now have 3 drivers left, as now Shaz is a whole second ahead of Olaf, unless Olaf can become Max Verstappen and just slam it all up. But Pimeralda dashes pushing around the outside, gets up into P2, and his victory for one man here in the sprint race. It is Shaz. Shaz wins the Japanese sprint race here in BPRL, here in round 4, and it's the podium of 3 different teams of McLaren, Aston Martin, Ferrari, and look at that, nearly 3 wide to the line, and looking even further down, look at all this! Absolute mayhem is ensuing, but one man we need to focus on, and that is Shaz. Victory for the McLaren team here in the sprint race, and that is going to do wonders for them towards the constructors' standings. And now we head in to the main qualifying for the main event. Who will get pole position here in Japan? It's unknown still, but we'll find out. Now the pit lane goes a Kick Sauber, more specifically Ghostly Viper, and also Jumeirah shortly behind, followed by ASO Matt, and everyone is just piling on, just ready to put the first lap on the board to try and see where they come out. ASO Matt just made a beautiful move into the hairpin. It's as if Jumeirah and ASO Matt are fighting for the race lead at the moment. I think that could be a 5-place grid penalty. But for who? But anyway, Jumeirah will be the first person to put a lap on the board. And down into turn 1, ASR Matt also closely behind, but as they make way into the S section now, who will be the quicker one out of the two? Probably Jameiro because it's realistic performance, but you never know. Jameiro making his way down into Spoon. There's the Williams of Martin ahead, and that was really, really close for a massive crash. And you can see ASR Matt emerging from the hill in the background, but down into the chicane. Jameiro around the final corner. The first lap on the board here in the normal qualifying shall be a 1:28.7. What about ASR Matt around the final corner? Goes a second behind, a 1:29.7 as well, and his teammate starting a lap as well. Bobby goes up into P2. Ghostly Viper going slowly on invalidated lap time as Pimeralda goes on provisional pole. But what about Ghostly Viper's teammate, Bike Life? Can he improve from his position in the sprint race? Goes P5, 2.5 seconds behind, as Pimeralda's only 94 thousandths ahead of Jameiro as well. The Ferrari starting his lap as Ibrahim goes into P5, Bradders into P7, and then also the Alpine going to P6. That's Mezigua. I can't pronounce that, I'm very sorry, but MCL4 starting his lap, I believe. That was Nicholas, actually, sorry. Mini Waffle went up into P2 as well. Jameiro diving into the pits in some sort of fashion. Martin goes up into P5. His teammate ASR Matt diving into the pits, and also Bobby making his way into the final chicane. He'll dive into the pits. DJ Death Dragon up into P5. What about Ghostly Viper? Around the final corner, I think he got invalidated, or he was in an outlap. But Olaf, the Ferrari that got taken out from victory, crosses the line, goes on provisional pole. The Aston Martin of Bradders up into P5, and it's great racing once again from the Ferrari party. And what about MCL? He's going around the final corner to start his lap time, but behind him is somebody, and that somebody is somebody. It was Bike Life. He crossed the line to improve his lap time, but Marco starts his lap. Currently being lost at the moment. I'm kind of lost. Shaz starting up his lap time. The winner of the sprint race. Can he reflect that into the feature race or the main event? And who's next to cross that line? And that is Martin going to the pits, but the Mercedes of DJ Death Dragon either restarting his lap, but the kick salve of Ghostly Viper goes P13. He goes the slowest out of the entire bunch that have put a lap on the board. the Aston Martin of Bradders going into the pits most likely. The Haas of Ibrahim goes P6. That's a little uncalled for. And what about MCL? Around the final corner, can he beat the two Kick Saubers lap times? Splits them in half, going into P13. And speaking of the Kick Saubers, here comes Bike Life going slowly. But what about Upright Persona? He's going to cross line. He's going to go into P13. Marco goes back on provisional pole like he was in the sprint qualifying. 5 seconds ahead of his teammate into P2. And this is qualifying finally being slowly settled in as Step starts his lap. 2 drivers still not even put a lap on the board yet and still sitting in the pit lane. And as we keep our eyes peeled, Mini Waffled is in the gravel, most likely going to make his way into the pits. The ASR Matt starting his lap, Mini Waffled spun round. But what about the Mercedes of DJ Def Dragon going to the pits? Yay. What about Ghostly Viper? He's invalidated. Bobby starting his lap. The Haas of Ibrahim not on a proper lap, most likely, and thought so. Aston Martin of Bradders is invalidated. The V-Carb of MCL will definitely not on a proper lap. The Ferrari of Marco, is he improving at all? I don't think so. As he makes it to Sector 2, yeah, he's not. What about the Haas of Upright Persona? He's also not on a proper lap time, so nobody's being proper at the moment. But the Steps, however, the next person to set a lap here in qualifying, to put a lap on the board for the McLaren, can he beat Shaz? He crosses the line, goes P5, and that is pretty decent. As his teammate Shaz makes his way into the pits, ASR Matt is charging into the chicane. He's 5/10 up, looking to go into P9 and around the final corner, on board with the Williams. He's going to cross line, goes P9, exactly as I said. And that, we are now entering a phase where there's going to be little to no drivers out on track. But looking around, J-Chem is also on a lap as he cuts his way into the hairpin. Shaz going out on track as well. You can see Olaf shortly ahead of him as Olaf slaloms his way into the S section. He's a 10th up on his Sector 1, however, making his way into the hairpin. But let's quickly look to the line. J-Chem is invalidated, leaving Olaf and Meziger the only people currently on a lap, I think. Let's look at Meziger. Is he invalidated or... No, but he is improving. But we will look at Olaf first as he's making his way down into 130R. He is... J-Chem has a 5 place grid penalty with a crash with a Haas. And DJ Dev Dragon also with the same 5 place grid penalty with the same Haas, with collision with the same Haas. As at the exit, Olaf will now cross the line. And can he go on provisional pole? Yes, he can! 3/10 ahead of Marco, 3.5 to be more specific. And as we look down further down, Mezager 5 tenths up. Really improve his position, however. He's now going to cross the line, stays where he is. He's closing the gap to Olaf, but it's not good enough to at least get into P13. Can Marco even overtake back his teammate? But looking around, Ghostly Viper, Bike Life just crossed the line. I mean, I don't know if they're on a lap or not. The Mercedes going to the pits, the Haas of Upright Persona starting his lap time. So the next to cross the line is Shaz. And as Shaz is diving into the chicane, he has a bit of a luck up. He's currently got, apparently, a purple sector 2. But around the final corner, he's going into the pits. Olaf going into the pits, but Marco is 6 tenths up on Olaf's purple sector 2. And down into the chicane, he can get provisional pole and by a somewhat margin, as around the final corner is looking like a 126 and it says 127.2, 3 tenths clear, nearly 4 of Olaf, and exactly 2:00, which looks very satisfying. But who's next to cross the line? You have Bradders on an outlap and then a weak Ghostly Viper. But Ghostly Viper's not on a proper lap time. So it's going to be actually the Haas of Upright Persona. But he's actually 4 seconds down as well. Bike Life 14 seconds down on his lap. And it only leaves Marco, who is probably not on a proper lap as he's already set an amazing one. Ooh, Bradders into the grass with whatever on earth that I think Alpine was doing. Unless the kicks Albert through, no problem. Now, literally everybody is out on track, and we have literally 1 minute, basically 1 minute left. Jaco and Nicholas still yet to set a lap. Nicholas going into chicane to start his. Probably Bike Life won't even also may even stay where he is, let alone probably decrease in position. But the next person to cross that line will be, and put a lap on the board, I mean, I think it will be a DJ Death Dragon. But there are a couple drivers ahead of him, so I'm not really sure. No Ibrahim. I mean, DJ Death Dragon's a second ahead. Jamara is retired from the session. But most importantly, DJ Death Dragon into the final chicane and into the final corner. What will DJ Death Dragon says? He's going to cross the line and goes up into P3. And the Aston Martin and Bradders stays where he is. And what about the Williams, I believe that is, of Martin? He stays where he is, not even improving at all. The V car behind also stays where he is. And still, nothing changing. Zip Bike Life making his way round. But most importantly, the V-Carb of Nicholas, P6. The Ferrari of Olaf improves but stays where he is. Steps goes up into P3. What about Shaz? Steps his teammate. He has a bit of a bump into the entry of the chicane. But around the final corner, he's going to cross the line. Goes P3, a 1-2 for Ferrari, unless Pimeralda can do something about it. 5/10 up at the moment, and he is absolutely steamrolling down into the chicane. It's hitting both apexes. Mini Waffled also behind, and it is Pimeralda into P3, and I think Mini Waffled into P3 actually, so Pimeralda is in P4, but it's a 1-2 for Ferrari. Why is no one watching my stream, bro? Well, basically no one. And going to the race, it's going to rain, without a doubt. I mean, if not, it already is raining. Formation lap is underway. And let's quickly look at the tyres. It's mediums and hards, but I'm not sure. I think it's going to rain. And that could be a possible strategy. but let's go through the grid. It's Marco on pole, followed by Olaf, followed by Mini Waffled, then Pimeralda, the two McLarens of Shaz and Steps, Nicholas, Jameiro, Ibrahim, Bradders, DJ Devdragon, Matt, Bobby, Martin, Mezagir, Bike Life, Jake, Upright, MCL, and Ghostly Viper. And as Marco makes his way down to his grid position, the McLaren also raring to get there as well. One, two, three, four, and 5 red lights. It is lights out and away we go. It's a great start for Marco, and Olaf can't get past him, and Pimeralda gets another amazing start like he did in the sprint race. He's down the inside of Mini Waffled. He's made contact. He's pushed Olaf wide as if we haven't seen this before, but they're all tumbling, and that's Jameiro smacking straight into the wall. That's someone going down into the gravel. That was Nicholas. And what has just happened? And Marco leads, and the fight for P3 is so tension. There's so much tension, and as they all scrap, and it's a virtual safety car. The VSC has been called out, and hopefully not the full course safety car will be coming out, as Jameiro has slammed into the barriers. As we're ready to get back underway, Mini Waffled, Pimeralda and Marco has ran away from the pack, and look at Steps. Oh, no anymore. And we're about to get back underway. As they go out of the chicane, we're about to get back underway. Marco crosses the line. Oh, we're still not going. Now we're going, however, and the McLaren, Badders and Shaz are all just squabbling for P4 as they all dash into turn 1, into turn 2, round the right-hander, into the S section now. It is neck and neck for this P4 spot for 12 points to be acquired. Now, obviously, Shaz is behind everyone as he is on the hard compound tyres, but also don't forget Bradders is right on the rear of Shaz's teammate. And looking at the possible race strategies, we have a 1-stop or a 2-stop, and the people going on a hard start on the hards, I don't know what they're doing, but going down into the hairpin and gonna make their way into Spoon Curve. Two Alpines scrapping together, and Mezagir has been pushed wide and made contact with the Williams of Martin. And as the top 3 splits off, meaning first, second and third are all 2 seconds apart, Marco sets the fastest lap of a 1:39. But anyway, Shaz has pulled to the right, and can he get past Bradders? Can Bradders make a comeback into 130R? No, he can't. And it's Shaz up into P5. And there's lockups from everyone in general. And there's a bollard that's creeped under the Steps' car as Upright Persona's disconnected. Oh my god. What a move from the Steps. Had a bit of a moment there, but the Steps gets up into P3. Can Shaz get past the Red Bull as well? I mean, it's unknown. Ibrahim up into P8 as well. I just realised that. Was he there the entire time? No, he was in P9. But yeah. Olaf pulling to the right of Bradders. Can he go around? Can he make the move? Yes, he can. Can Bradders make a comeback into the chicane? No, I don't think he can, as he sits behind the Ferrari. He's still waiting. He goes into the grass to try and make a move. Illegal overtake, or rather. And there's a spin from Mini Waffled. He's lost his front end plates. His front left, to be more specific. And he's round. And this has not been a good race here for the two Red Bulls, as now both Red Bulls have slithered out of the points. At the moment, a single file queue, and it's another VSC. What has happened? And oh, kick life into the barriers. Must have spun round. Was that Olaf? I swear I just saw him smack into a wall as he made his way into the pits. And the gaps are really, oh no. Have we hit the boring part of this Grand Prix? Dear God, I hope not. Can Shaz finally pull the move? On steps, no he can't. He has to slalom behind. Ghostly Viper further down the order makes a move on upright as they make their way into the chicane, hit the apex, and they've done that amazingly. But the Shaz has taken a wide line, and here comes Bradders, ready to pounce, and going to turn one, he slots in behind, but the DRS is too strong for the Aston Martin down the inside. Shaz gets pushed wide, and not only that, Shaz has dropped massively, and this can really cost his pace and his position. I mean, he's immediately clawing back into this fight, but he did have a bit of a scare there. And there's a spin from ASR Matt! ASR Matt goes spinning into the gravel rather unexpectedly, and he's tumbled out of the points. His teammate is now under a threat from the V-Carb, and the Williamses are both out of the points as V-Carb approach their way and get one glorious point that can definitely help that can definitely help them in the championship. Mini Waffles DNF'd as well. I've just noticed that. Bradders gets ahead of the steps. And it's a 2 and 3 for Aston Martin, but the Steps gets back into P3. They're side by side going into the S section. Bradders has the inside line, but Steps has the next one. And Steps stays ahead of the Aston Martin. And this came rather suddenly. I mean, Bradders has dropped to P5. I mean, Shaz has run away from steps, so that's worse now. Shaz has set the fastest lap. Steps is in the pits. And it's a great move from DJ Death Dragon. Going up to P5 now. And nothing's going on. I mean, Shaz has catched up to Piralda, but we're one of them pits. There you go. Yeah. Amazing. And once again, there's nothing going on. Oh, Shaz is in the pits. I mean, Marco is catching up to DJ Death Dragon. And once again, there's nothing happening. Martin's DNF'd in the pits. And finally we have some action going on. It's Pimeralda closing in on Olaf. And there is a possibility that we don't have a Ferrari 1-2. Well, Pimeralda's gone ahead. It was expected. I mean, it's a full course safety car. Something's actually happened, and because I'm so bored, I've not really paid attention. I've been muted this entire time. Amazing. Anyway, going through the S section now. Pimarada is chasing down Marco. And as they slalom their way through the S's, it is neck and neck. They battle their way forward. And can Pimarada catch up closer enough to make the move on Marco? As also Olaf is also trying to get past him. Puffs of smoke behind, and as they cut into the hairpin, can Olaf get past Pimarada and make it make it back to where it was a couple laps ago, where it was a 1-2 for Ferrari? I think Olaf's made a mistake there. Now Steps can so obviously pounce at that, as there's a yellow flag. That's ASR Matt round at 130R. But let's keep focus towards the race. DRS is re-enabled. We have 3 laps left of this Grand Prix, and it's not so boring anymore. Looking further down the grid, Shaz is chasing down Jake. And can Shaz make the move on the Alpine? There's almost a crash, maybe even. ASR Matt's a 10-second penalty for speeding the pit lane. He's DNF'd, he's retired in the pits. But around the outside goes Shaz, going into Spoon now. Can Jake get the switch back on the McLaren? He can't, and Shaz speeds away from him. Steps chasing down the Ferrari. And as he cuts his way into the final corner, Olaf gets a better exit, but the rundown will be in Pimarada's hands as he gets past Marco, and Steps gets past Olaf, and the Ferrari's race is crumbling by every corner they take. The gaps get closer and more distant. The 1-2, what was a 1-2 on lap 20 is now 2 and 4 on lap 26. 2 laps left, maybe around 1.5, but around the next couple of corners, Marco needs to regain that lead if he wants any chance of this championship. Yellow flags. Marco just slides past Pimarada, and we're now on the final lap of this Grand Prix. Who will be victorious? Can Pimarada catch up quickly enough? Going to now the long left-hander. And Marco's got more ERS, but Pimarada has obviously Maybe even got more speed, however. And around 130R, it looks like it's gonna go to Marco. Down into the final chicane. He's got 2 more corners left. No more mistakes. And around the final corner, it's a Ferrari victory. Marco wins the Japanese Grand Prix. And it's another, just like in the sprint race, 3 different teams on the podium. Ferrari, Aston Martin and McLaren. And JKM jumps up to 6th after penalties. His teammate goes into 10th. And it's Marco rising up victorious. This has been a great race, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.